I want to welcome World Record Ron to the Harmony Power Broadcast Show. And I got to say, it's a great honor to have you here today, and to be able to hear about you and recognize you at the end of the show. You know, there's three main questions that I have that I find to be absolutely important. And I want to, first of all, I want to ask you, what is the most amazing accomplishment you've done, in your life? That's the first thing I want to know.
Well, first thing, John, I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this and for, choosing me for this award. It's a great honor. I really mean that. And I want to thank you for doing that. I don't know if I'm worthy, but I do appreciate, your attention and allowing me to be a part of this. So the greatest thing that I've ever done. Wow, that's a tough question to answer.
A lot of things. I mean, there's like this book. I show this book.
Well, the book was a huge accomplishment. I have to think back, like graduating from college, being a part of different organizations. There's so many different things that I'm so proud of that I've done over my lifetime, which is what, 56 years. That's a long time, 56 years,
We're the same, you and
I. That's right. We're the same age. So that's 112 years of experience on this planet, John. So to answer your question, that's kind of a tough one. I think, I'm very proud of the world records that I've broken. I'm extremely proud of the book, as you mentioned. The book in itself was kind of a world record attempt for me because it took almost a year and a half to complete. It came out the way I wanted it to. I think a lot of times with books and projects, sometimes they don't come out the way you want them to, but this thing came out great.
Look at this book. And you know what's so interesting about this book is I love to read. I mean, look at these pictures. I mean, everything this book has so much life to it.
Thank you.
It is, in an age where people have the attention span of zero.
Right.
I was like, look at this book. It was like, it was full of color and life and stories that connect with the pictures. And look, we met through a friend, Adam James. And
Adam James.
And you inspired me. I mean, I had this world record thing in my head. I have a high school record for doing the one-arm push-ups.
Right.
As I was mulling that over, Adam recommended you, and when we spoke briefly, what impressed me about you and why it leads me to honoring you at the end of the show is the fact that you were so humble. I said, how does someone who do so many amazing things stay grounded?
Right.
Most people kind of like, they're all over the place. They're not even, it's hard to even talk to them. And you were easy to talk to, and I was motivated and inspired to do mine. But I humble myself to the magnitude of the records that you do. Mine are 30 seconds, and then they have their accomplishments, but hours and days doing things. I mean,
well,
stratosphere to me.
Humility, and you share this as well. You have great humility. I think humility is one of the most important things that a characteristic that someone can have. Mm-hmm. The hard work and effort that goes behind these world records, we're very aware of it. We don't really need to tell people about it. As long as we're aware of it and we've had the experience, that makes us better people. I don't really feel it's necessary to tell everybody else about it. One of the reasons why I wrote the book is so I could share my experiences with world records with other people. Because as you know, there's so much that goes on during these world records. And I have in the book, the other thing about the book is I shared all of my attempts, not just the successful ones, but all of the failures, all of the ones that, weren't successful, because I learned more from those than I did from the ones that were successful. And I think that's a very important thing in life, not just in a book, but in life, to share with people. That's where you really learn about yourself, is when you fail. And how do you handle failure?
I'm going to add something to this, because you and I, we help each other. I don't believe in failure. I believe that you don't reach a certain goal teaches us we have to get better to achieve the goal.
Right.
The next
Right.
essence is no failure for those people that are trying to achieve world records or achieve anything in their life. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Because a failure means that you've done something bad and wrong and I'm terrible. No, it's just you got to work harder. You
Yeah.
get
And I use the word failure because I think most people
they,
understand
they
what that
identify
means.
they identify with it.
But you and I are, I think you and I are basically two brothers from the same mother, or different mothers, I guess. It's two brothers from different mothers. We understand and we think alike. We're very like-minded people. And when we do something, we give it our all, we give it everything. And then you deal with the consequences, or you deal with the results
Right.
afterwards. And that's really what life is all about. Life is not about world records, right? Life is about how do you deal with that world record, and how do you deal with the results after the world record? That's really what it's all about.
That's very true.
It's a focus exercise, honestly. And I don't know if I put this in the book. I don't think I did, but all of these world records, it doesn't matter what they're about, whether it's a tennis ball or a watermelon or whatever, it's a focus exercise. Can you do what's required to be the best in the world for 1 minute or for 50 hours? If you can, then that says something about you.
I agree. And I feel that it's these are the kind of things that evolves humanity. And I
Right.
feel that
Right.
the root of it, there's the physical accomplishment, the accolade that goes with that, but it's really spiritual at the root,
Sure.
right? So
Yeah.
part of the humanity is evolving, and part of evolution is like watching what people can actually do,
Right.
physically and spiritually, and how it all comes together with an end result.
Sure.
And
And there's a certain mentality and a certain, for me, and this goes all the way back to the beginning for me when I played sports. I have to get myself in a space, in a mental space, before I do something, before I break a world record, or before I play football, or before I do stand-up comedy. It's all the same stuff. When I was skydiving, I would jump out of a plane. We'd jump out at 13, 14,000 feet. There's a headspace that you get into that it's really hard to explain to people. But it's all the same. It's that same feeling and that same headspace, whether it's football or skydiving or stand-up comedy or anything. You have to put yourself in that space, and that prepares you for what's ahead.
yes,
And for me, that's always been a really important thing. I have to take that minute or two ahead of time and go be by myself and get ready and get prepped. And then it's game time.
well, I have to say, with all of that, my question is, what is the greatest adversity you've ever having to deal with in your life and overcome it?
John, I think that for me, I think that goes back to childhood. And I know with psychiatry and all of that, everything goes back to childhood. But for me, especially losing my dad at the age of 3, and him being so young, he was only 33 when he died. So he was young. I think that kind of forced me to realize at a very young age, first of all, what death is all about. And then also that, wow, I really need to learn how to take care of myself. I had a great mom. My mom is the best. I mentioned her in the book. I dedicate the book to her. But when you're a young kid growing up in Detroit in a tough neighborhood, mom's not always there. So you have to figure out how to take care of yourself in difficult situations. So honestly, I look at it as losing my dad as a gift, because it really forced me to become the man of the family and to become my own man at a very young age, and to make some hard choices and hard decisions at a really young age. And it really brought life into perspective for me. It really brought life
I'm sorry.
full perspective for me.
I'm thinking I'm interrupting you, which is not something I usually do, but these kids in Detroit, do they know? They must know about you.
Well, I've worked with the Boys Club, which is now the Boys and Girls Club. It used to just be the Boys Club. So you have to be careful when you say that. Yeah, it's Boys Club and Girls Club. And I do talk to the kids at the Boys Club. I was fortunate because I grew up right across the street, literally across the street from a Boys Club.
That's
So
amazing. that says a lot about why, how that impacted you.
Yeah, exactly. I would go from school to the boys club where I was completely immersed in sports
Mhm.
and competition. So the boys club was always about, you were always competing. Even when you were just playing pool, you were competing.
That's
And
incredible.
I also learned at a very young age that I love sports and I was really good at it. I was naturally good at it. And fortunately for me, that's really what has driven me most of my life is sports and sports oriented events like Guinness World Records.
I'll tell you that says it all. I mean, kid growing up in Detroit, loses his dad, but then has to become, your mother was like the mother and the father. And then in certain ways,
Yes,
you had to become your own dad.
exactly.
I grew up fast, right?
Yeah,
And for those kids out there, I think, if the kids watch this, which I hope that a lot of kids watch this, because what a great example. Like, they don't have to make excuses that they lost a parent, that they can't make it. They
right.
now know that anything's possible if they choose to have a different attitude. And that's not
Exactly.
going to be easy.
Yeah,
But what the hard road sometimes is a sweet reward.
yeah,
You get into addicted to working hard. Then you get addicted to working smarter. You don't necessarily have to work harder. Just have
right,
smarter choices and following your passions to become that person. But what
right.
an extraordinary role model. You hear so much about Detroit, the violence, and
Well,
but,
thank
you
you.
know, but,
Thank you.
but the amazing human beings that come out of Detroit, that's what this is about. Now,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that, one last question I have before I
sure.
excitingly want to honor you is the kindest action you've done to a person or group, right? So I know you've done stuff with these world records with charity, but what emotionally hits you? Something you've done to help another person or group. What's the biggest thing?
Well, I go back because I've been thinking about this. I go back to when I first started breaking world records, which was 2004. And the first one that I did was I punched a heavy bag for 36 hours straight. And at the time I was teaching boxing and kickboxing. So it was really sort of in my wheelhouse to do that. But to do it for that long, I had no clue how difficult it was going to be, not even physically, but emotionally and mentally, to stay up all night punching and, basically throwing over 100,000 punches in that
You have to
period of
stop to
time.
go to the bathroom if I'm not mind me asking, like, how did that work out? You have to stop to eat,
So with the Guinness World Records, if you do anything beyond 24 hours, you have to take a 5-minute bathroom break every hour. So it's like a 65-minute hour. So you punch for an hour and then you take a 5-minute break. But people think, oh, you get a 5-minute break, so you just go sit in the corner for 5 minutes and relax. That's not how it works. You have to go to the bathroom during that time, and then you have to take in your calories for the next hour. So there's a lot going on. It's probably it's the busiest 5 minutes of the hour because you're moving, you're going to the bathroom, you're guzzling a bottle of water, you're trying to eat as much food as you can for,
funny.
you get 2 minutes to chew and swallow.
It makes me think of my teenage kids. I think that's how they live their life. They have 5 minutes, and they're like, I'm
The
like,
food's there, man. Get it down while it's here.
especially my youngest, he's like, he's a workout fiend. He wants to play for the
Yeah,
NBA. He's like eating. I gotta go.
yeah.
Like 3 hours here, comes back and he's eating
It's
again.
similar to that.
I can't keep up with that. So of course,
The
every hour
problem,
you're eating it. Yeah,
the problem with what I was dealing with is I only had maybe 2 minutes to chew and swallow the food for the next hour.
I can't believe it.
So and then I was on a recumbent bike, keeping my lower back moving while I was eating. So it was, those 5 minutes are hard 5 minutes. It's not a restful 5 minutes, but getting back to your question, John,
Yes.
when I broke that record, I decided to dedicate it to my dad. And at the time, the Lance Armstrong Foundation, I was a big fan of Lance Armstrong before the whole debacle with the drugs and testosterone and all that. But the organization did great things for people. And I chose that organization because my dad died from testicular cancer, which is what almost killed Lance. And they did focus on that in that organization. But I raised a lot of money for that organization people don't understand, I do fundraisers while I'm doing world records as well. And that first year that I raised $10,000 for the Lance Armstrong Foundation, which is a lot of money for a guy like me to raise for any organization. And I just did it by, just talking to friends, getting donations from people. People showed up at the event, donated money. But for me, when I do the world records, I also like to do something special for an organization or for a person. So
Yes.
For these particular first handful of records, I raised a lot of money for the Lance Armstrong Foundation. I've also worked with a lot of other foundations like the Mike Utley Foundation, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. There's a handful of organizations that I really like to work with and raise money for. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
That speaks volumes, because it's really about, for you, the kindness act is really a culmination of things. It's like, obviously, one true to your heart with your father and how you helped that charity, but you spent your life doing that. You live that way. So it's not just the physicality of, let me do this world record. It's let me associate this with this need in the world. So teaching everyone what's possible when you put your mind to it. And I'm challenging myself, and I want to help this organization make it bigger than life and really be an example for people to follow. That's why it brings me to this. This certificate.
I have to put my glasses on so I can see that.
Read it to you. Ron Sarchian has been awarded this certificate for a dedication, commitment, and outstanding efforts in promoting harmony in the world. Wow,
that's awesome.
Bam, right.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that. That's really awesome. It really made my week.
Yeah.
And made my day today to not only be a part of that, but also to work with you. Being friends with you has been great. It's been an honor. Our friendship, even though we're 3,000 miles apart, we still seem to be able to stay in touch and, stay on the same page with each other, even through the pandemic.
Yes.
And a lot of other personal issues and that sort of thing. Friendship is a very powerful thing. And our friendship has been interesting because, we've met through other people and we've stayed in touch, through different, through the phone and the computer and all that sort of thing. We haven't really spent that much time together as human beings, but we're so like-minded and we like to do the same things and we like to break world records. And I think we see life in the same way. I really do.
It's easy to talk to you. It's easy for you to talk to me because of that synergy and that like-mindedness.
Exactly.
Really more. And two, it's also because, we have a deep concern for humanity and we want to help humanity, go to a higher level, which I feel excited and not just hopeful, but very optimistic with all of the things that the world is going through. Because there are people like us in the world. We're not alone. They're out there. And my mission is recognizing as many as I can in this existence and the children. And that's why the Harmony Power Award is very, very significant, because you're honoring the person's heart and soul. You're not the superficial stuff. I leave that for Hollywood. That has its place.
Well, I want to thank you too, John, because, you've been through a lot in the last year. Knowing you personally, you've been through a lot with the virus and some other things. And, you've come through it amazingly well. You really have. And that's, to me, I've actually learned a lot through you just from that, seeing how you've handled yourself with nothing but class and dignity. And I noticed that, and I'm sure other people do too. So thank you for being such a great example of how to live your life and how to treat other people. That's a really, really, you don't see that in many people anymore. We're so divided, not only politically, but how to handle things and how to do things. But I think you've handled yourself extremely well, and you're a great example of, you're just a really good human being. So thank you.
Well, the love goes both ways, my brother. And
thank you.
And that's why this is all this is a big accomplishment, and
Yes, it is.
I'm super proud of you. And this is awesome. So
Thank you.
again, this is so cool. Even the picture.
I did mention you in the book. I didn't have a really good picture because I think I only had one or two pictures, and they weren't very good pictures. So I didn't want to put them in the book,
It,
unless they were nice.
I was touched when I saw it. It's I've been blessed to been published, several times like that. But
Right,
to me, it's more the meaning and the thought with the person. That's
right.
what matters. They're looking to go, oh, this is great. Thank you. It's like it's an honor to be thought of. That's how I
I
look at it.
agree. And once again, the book, going back to the book, it's like anything else. It was a focus exercise. And, it was a book, but like anything else, it came out great because I put a lot of time and effort into it. I put my heart and soul into that book.
I think this book, if people read it, not only will they be motivated, inspired to make no excuses in their reality, no excuses at all. They can't be better. But
Right.
but the books in itself, to me, this is how books should be made right now, because people's attention span is so little.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so picture driven, and there's a lot of picture driven, and there's quality content in the book.
Right.
So for that reason, people should definitely be buying your book, or finding out, where can they get the book?
Well, the good thing about, I decided not to sell the book. I'm sending it to friends and family like yourself.
Yeah.
People who have helped me over the years, but I'm also going to have it, people can read it and download it for free from my website, which is worldrecordron.com.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
They have access to read it online. That's brilliant. You
And it's free. And it's free.
Again,
Yeah.
it's giving to the world. This is, again, Harmony Power Award. You're giving to humanity. You're saying,
Right.
here.
Right.
And what's
I
that?
didn't, John, I didn't want to go through that whole process of having to sell a book and trying to make a profit and all that.
Yeah, I agree. Give it
I
away.
wrote that book for a reason, and that's to share my stories.
Give it away. The world
Yeah.
is desperate for good things,
Right.
good
Right.
quality content, coming out feeling better about their life. And the endorsements. I mean, have Gene LaBelle. Gene doesn't endorse anybody.
No, he doesn't.
He didn't endorse anyone, but Ron Sarchian, I'll endorse him.
Well, Gene's the one who gave me the nickname, the Hammer.
Yeah. I mean, that
because,
guy,
I hold the most world
got
records.
with that guy. He's got that guy's, he's not even human. He grabs you, you're not going anywhere.
And Gene, Gene is one of those guys. I still have, I've been doing stunt work for 30 years now. And Gene was a really well-known stuntman, world-renowned stuntman. And I hold the most Guinness World Records right now, breaking things with a sledgehammer. And he really likes that. He really, he picked up on that. And that's why he started calling me the Hammer. So when I call, I keep an eye on Gene. I try to call him every couple of weeks, see how he's doing. And he goes, "Is this the Hammer?" Go, "Yeah, Gene, it's Ron." "How you doing, Hammer?" So he's a character, and he fortunately wrote part of my foreword along with Carl Ciarfalio, who is another stunt legend and a really good friend of mine. Those guys have been supporting me since day one, and they have been really good mentors of mine. When I struggle with something, I can call them and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this." And I get really good advice from those guys. So,
oh, yeah, these are legends. The legends, wrote your foreword. What more could you want?
right.
And you are a legend in this,
Thank
in the
you.
world record arena. No questions about that.
And you as well, John.
My hat's off to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, son. So listen, I'm going to conclude the show, and I want to say thank you so much for coming on to this show.
Of
And
course.
great honor to have you today.
It's such an honor to be a part of this and to accept this award. And I just want to say thank you. It's much appreciated, and it really, I'm really excited about it. I think it's a great honor, and I'm looking forward to getting it and putting it on the wall next to my Guinness World Records and enjoying it for the next, how many years. So thank you, John.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much again. And it's great to
bet.
see you.
You bet.